because organizations who wants to engage with bigger companies and government, they'll now need to demonstrate they are not supplying goods or services made by forced labor.
Welcome back to the Business Behind Your Business podcast, where we have the conversations to help your business grow and thrive. And as always, we bring the experts to you on the different subjects that we're covering here on the podcast. And today we're looking at something a little bit different to what we normally cover, but it's something that affects a lot of businesses. And I don't know if you remember, but a number of years back or even more recently, companies like Nike and Apple and some of the big multinationals were in the news for the way that they had treated their labor force in countries and for the conditions that they had allowed their workers to operate in. And many of those conditions are what we would say border on slave labor. So Nike and Apple were under a lot of scrutiny for that kind of behavior, for the way that they treat the workers in other countries. It's something that is, when you think about it, you think it's multinationals, that's something I don't need to worry about. But yeah, we're recording this podcast here in Sydney, and right in our backyard, in fact, in the same suburb that I'm standing in recording this podcast, we have aspects of modern slavery happening right here in Australia. Now, if you're not sure what that concept means, or if you're hearing that for the first time, you're not alone. So what we're going to do is have a look at what that actually is. Now, the best person I know to explain this is Anna Ruth. Now, Anna is from Freedom for Humanity, and I'm going to introduce Anna to the microphone and get her to explain what Freedom for Humanity is and why are we talking about modern slavery today. So, Anna, welcome to the microphone.
Thanks, Paul. It's great to be here. Our organization, our vision is to create a world free of human trafficking and modern slavery, and our mission is breaking slavery with education, because I believe the key to freedom is education. It breaks the cycle of poverty, and it enables the individual to stand on their own feet. And so for us, in 2016, according to the Global Slavery Index, there were 40.6 million in bondage. And last year, the ABC confirmed that number has increased by 25%. So we're looking at 10 million in just shy of 5 years.
Well, that's a lot of people. So when we're talking about bondage, so what are some of the things that we're talking about here where we're talking about modern slavery? So the idea, many of us have an idea of what slaves were, thinking back to the 1800s and the 1900s, but what sort of things are included in the definition of modern slavery?
Yeah, so there are things such as human trafficking, servitude, forced labor, debt bondage, forced marriage, deceptive recruitment for labor or services, slavery, and worse, forms of child labor.
I think here in Australia we tend to be a bit ignorant to the fact that these things are still happening. But some of these things are still happening, like I said, very close to home.
Absolutely. So just 6 months ago, I was invited to a film premiere at the Event Cinema in Castle Tower on dowry abuse. And I didn't know anything about what that was. And my friends and I, we went there thinking we're just going to watch a film, meet some cool people. But this film was made for the police force. So it's not open to the public. And in the film, the bride has to pay money and assets to the groom's family when they have none. And in this film, they were isolated, abused, and some committed suicide. At the end of the presentation, a father came up to the front, in front of the Hillshire Council, the police force, university, and said that his own daughter, who was highly educated here in Sydney, she committed suicide because she didn't want to bring shame to the family. And this film was made in Blacktown and Kellyville. So this one example includes forced marriage, debt bondage, servitude, dowry abuse, slavery, and forced marriage. So that's 5 categories of modern slavery right here in our own backyard.
Because I think we tend to ignore that can actually happen here. And when we think about it in Australian terms, we're probably thinking about the fruit pickers and the students here on visas who are getting underpaid or treated poorly. But I guess that's included as a form of slavery.
Yes, that's actually quite a very big problem here in Australia in agricultural, because a lot of the overseas travelers, students, they be working in different agricultural farms, and they get treated very, very poorly, get paid very minimal for the hours that they work. So it's this is why for me 15 years ago I was inspired, I guess, where I was at a women's event with 3,000 women, and one of the speakers was sharing how when she was at the airport in Greece, um, and she didn't know, she was speaking at a conference there, and she found all these missing posters of children all over the airport, and she made some inquiries and found out they were being human trafficked. And when she shared this, that really shocked me. This is someone else's reality. So I fill in my details to express my interest to volunteer, and nobody got back to me. So fast forward about 8 years ago, I was inspired to create Freedom for Humanity. I heard this inner voice that tells me to do events to raise awareness and contribute to ending human trafficking and modern slavery. But I resisted the voice for 12 months because I always thought this is the responsibility of the millionaires, the billionaires, the philanthropists. But I just, an ordinary girl just trying to make ends meet. But the voice wouldn't leave me alone, and I knew I had to do something. And so a handful of us, we created Freedom for Humanity as a registered charity.
Hmm. So with the charity, so Freedom for Humanity, you're saying it's a voice. So earlier, when we first got you introduced you, you're mentioning how education is a key to unlocking a lot of people from slavery. So education here and awareness, are they two things that Freedom for Humanity is the core activities?
Yes, it is. And this is, for me, we obviously want to raise awareness because awareness brings change, but we want to raise funds for scholarships for victims of human trafficking and modern slavery. Because as I mentioned, for me, I believe education is the key to freedom. It breaks the cycle of poverty. And, your yes, my yes, collectively will create a path for them, and let that, that they would never have otherwise, and they can stand on their own feet. And so this is, one of the reason why our goal is to raise awareness and raise funds for that.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great thing. So some of the things that you're doing, I think you mentioned that there's some large fundraising activities in the pipeline, and they would be core to I guess funding this education process.
Yes, absolutely. So we're hosting a gala ball at August the 23rd at Dalton House in Hyde Park. And we have the head of corporate affairs and sustainability from Nestle speaking. We also have the dean of the Australian Catholic University in Blacktown speaking. So we're looking at working with them to actually kickstart the scholarship program at this year's gala ball.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, the ways you can get involved, if you like, is to volunteer with us, because we're always looking for volunteers, both, here and internationally. Make a donation. You can buy a ticket. Come along. You can network with 200 to 300 corporate governments and charities. Be a leader. You can put together a table of 10 for this event. Invite your clients, your staff, your partners, and have a great night out. We've actually just engaged with one of the biggest entertainment agency in Australia, who is also sponsoring this event with the entertainment. You can also donate a product or a service to the auction prize, because we want to raise funds for the scholarships for the victims of human trafficking and modern slavery. We also have sponsorship available for corporates who are interested. We also, and also if you or anyone you know that are looking for speakers, but if you anything, you can help promote this event. Because the more awareness, the better, and that gives people the opportunity on social media or to your network to come along to this. What would I would say the iconic event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great, and there's plenty of opportunities there to get involved, and we'll share some of those links and resources in the show notes. So make sure you have a look at those, and not just have a look, but actually commit to doing something there. Now, one of the things that's come up a lot is that's happening somewhere else. How does that actually affect my business? And I wasn't aware of this, but. And we touched on the idea of Nike and Apple having their workforce in other countries. There's something that's coming into effect in Australia, which actually will affect more businesses. Do you want to just explain what that is and why we need to be aware of it?
Absolutely, because organizations who wants to engage with bigger companies and government, they'll now need to demonstrate they are not supplying goods or services made by forced labor, especially if the reporting entity has 100 million plus, according to the Commonwealth Act. Under the New South Wales Act, there's not so monetary threshold. And here's the thing: there's bad practice and there's a good practice. What does that look like? Well, for big companies, we'll ask, for example, a bad practice, for a company to provide a statutory declaration to say they are slavery free. But a good practice is when a good company engage their suppliers to collaborate with them, for example, training and education, policy development, helping them and working with their suppliers wherever the needs are. And I think one of the thing I would look at in the future is that there's going to be a global standard. So, for example, the quality standards, health and safety standards, environmental standards. So it's only a matter of time that there will be a sustainability standards. So it is up to organizations, whether it's SMEs or corporates, so to be on that board, so that they will actually be recognized as a gold standard and being as a leader in that industry.
So how this works, if I'm understanding this correct, is that each business that has a turnover of a particular size has to have a statement saying that their suppliers also meet these new rules.
So that's correct. In Australia, corporates need to that turnover $100 million need to go through. They need to submit a modern slavery statement every quarter to the Australian Border Force, and they'll be able to put together that statement, and therefore it will just filter down. And with SMEs, as I mentioned, who tender for those bigger companies or any government agencies, now need to demonstrate they are not supplying goods and services made by forced labor.
Because I think one of the things that happened during COVID was we became more aware of which countries our products were actually being manufactured and delivered from. But I think also we sort of raised the question, well, what conditions are those people actually producing under? And you mentioned about the need for education, but if somebody is buying a product sourced by suppliers or businesses that used slave labor, if they don't have an output to sell, then surely they're not going to be increasing their usage of slave labor. We're going to be stamping it out because there's not going to be a demand to purchase from those businesses. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, and that's why for those big corporates, I guess I mentioned about the good practice is that they will actually come alongside with their suppliers and collaborate with them to say, okay, how can we help you working with their suppliers wherever the needs are, and also help them with their policy development, training and education. as another big one. So it's essentially, that areas that has the slavery sweatshop, people working under ridiculous hours and getting, little pay and child labor. Those are scenarios that they would, work alongside with these organizations.
Mm-hmm. So some proactive steps that business owners can take is to actually, I think, start asking the question, or maybe just asking the question of themselves to start with, like, where is my product coming from? Where are my inputs coming from?
Absolutely. I think that's the fundamental now, is to actually, ask those questions and then put some kind of, things in your process, so that you actually, incorporate that into your organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that there are things that we can do, and even if we don't think we're immediately impacted or affected by this, if we went to that 6 degrees of separation, we would probably find that we are actually encouraging the use of slave labor in some of our purchasing practices. So it's a case of not just looking at your immediate supplier, but who's supplying the supplier.
Yes. Yeah, and exactly. And this is why we want to be able to, we're hosting this gala ball at Dalton House. We hope that, companies or businesses can come along and be educated, be able to connect and collaborate. Because I always say it's not one person, one company, one city, one nation can do this. This is a global issue. And we've created this platform so that, so that we can collect and together we can make a bigger impact. Because it's a generational.
Yep.
What
absolutely.
you're doing, your choice today will be able to be, will build up for the future generations.
Yeah, that's right. That's certainly right. There's a story goes that the links in a chain begin with at one point, and are you going to be the first link in that chain of good behavior, good practices, good ethical, or I guess humane sourcing of your products. Yeah,
exactly, and go for the gold standard, because I think you'll find that there will come a time where it's a global standard, where it's a corporate kudos, where you're known for doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so much these days, other companies will be looking at your status, your behavior, and they will be scrutinizing you. So they will be looking at you and also where you're getting your supply from. So be proactive would be the word here. Be proactive about how you look at this problem. It is a problem that you are part of. You're part of the solution. So let's make sure that happens.
And can I just say, by ending, that there are 41,000 in modern slavery, according to the Global Slavery Index a month ago. And that actually number tripled since 2018. And there are 16,000 here just in New South Wales.
Right.
So it is time for me and you to do something, to say something, to come to our event, because if we don't do anything, the number is only going to get worse.
Absolutely. And look, Anna, you mentioned that you are volunteers. If somebody would like to volunteer some time, resources, how would they go about doing that?
Yes, absolutely. Please feel free to contact our website, www.freedomforhumanity.org.au. You'll have the information of the gala ball on the website. You can also email me. I am on anna@freedomforhumanity.org.au. Please feel free to reach out to me, and we would love to have the opportunity to look for volunteers to support us.
Fantastic. And look, we'll put also links to Freedom for Humanity's Facebook and LinkedIn pages in the show notes.
Awesome.
Keep following those because there's a lot of good, helpful updates there on a regular basis. So let's own this problem. So, like we said, Anna's details or Freedom for Humanity's details will be in the show notes. Also appear on the Business Behind Your Business website. They'll be there for you to see. If you're listening to this at a future date and you missed the gala ball, well, that's disappointing, but there'll be plenty of other opportunities for you to get involved in supporting this. So thank you, Anna, for your time today. It's been great to hear about or hear from you. Unfortunately, it's not a topic that's great to hear about, but let's work on the solution here, and let's all be part of that solution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul.
Great. Thank you. And look, if you're listening to us for the first time, it's great to have you with us. And look, please follow us in whichever podcast player or podcast service you're using. Make sure you follow us so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you are just finding us for the first time, there are plenty of good topics available for you to catch up on. You can go to the website, www.thebusinessbehindyourbusiness.com. Those episodes should be available in your podcast platform. Please share the message. We heard a great message today from Anna about freedom for humanity. Let's share that message. And if there's other messages out there that could help small and medium businesses just like you, then please, we encourage you to share that. So thank you again, and looking forward to sharing with you more great advice to help you grow a great business. Thank you.